I'm a truck driver, been doing it for years. The company I work for assigns me deliveries, and I take them where they need to go. It's a simple job, but it can get stressful, especially when I'm overloaded with short back-to-back trips. This time, though, I had a long-haul assignment, cross-country, plenty of time alone with the road. That's how I liked it. No constant stops, just endless stretches of highway. I was on my second full day of driving, somewhere between the middle of nowhere and nowhere at all. My plan was to drive from noon to midnight, then find a quiet place to sleep. I never overthink my stops. If I see a truck stop or a rest area, I pull in, sleep a few hours, and keep going. At around 9 p.m., I made a quick stop at a small gas station. One of those independent places, a little rundown, but it had fuel and some off-brand energy drinks. I grabbed one, filled up the tank, and got back on the road. Only 3 more hours to go. The roads were empty, just how I liked them. I turned on some classic rock, let my mind wander, and focused on the endless dark ribbon of highway ahead. It was peaceful in a way. The hum of the engine, the occasional flicker of a road sign, the distant glow of a gas station far off in the night. Then, out of nowhere, my radio crackled. The sound startled me. I kept my radio tuned to the trucker channel, but it was rare to hear anything this late. The static hissed, then cut out for a second. A voice, faint, distorted, broke through. It was just a split second, but I swore it sounded like either hello or help. I grabbed the radio and pressed the button. "You alright out there?" I asked. The radio buzzed softly, the static humming like something was trying to come through. But nothing else followed. No reply. Just dead air. A strange feeling crept over me. I glanced at my mirrors. Nothing but darkness. The road ahead was empty, the fields on either side swaying gently in the wind. Then, up ahead, my headlights caught something on the road. I slowed down. A semi-truck sat motionless in the middle of the lane, hazard lights off. Something about it felt wrong. Trucks don't just stop in the middle of the road like that. I pulled over to the shoulder and climbed out. The night air was thick, still too quiet. I called out, but no answer. As I walked closer, the truck's cab door was wide open. My stomach sank. The inside of the cab looked lived in. Half a sandwich in the cup holder, a jacket tossed over the passenger seat. The radio dangled from its cord, swaying slightly like it had just been used. But the driver? Gone. I stepped back, looking around. The wind rustled the tall grass on either side of the road, but there was nothing else. No movement. No sign of where the driver had gone. Just the empty road stretching into the night. A sudden wave of unease hit me. Something about this wasn't right. It wasn't just an abandoned truck. There was something off about the entire scene. It felt like I had stumbled onto something I wasn't supposed to see. I turned back to my truck, walking faster than I meant to. Every step felt heavier. My ears strained, listening for any sound behind me. The wind picked up slightly, but there was something else, something faint. A whisper? Footsteps? I wasn't going to stick around to find out. I climbed into my truck and locked the doors. My hands gripped the wheel tighter than necessary as I shifted into gear. As I passed the parked semi, I glanced at it one last time, and that's when I saw it. In the reflection of the side mirror, movement. Someone, stepping out from the tall grass, just barely visible in the dim glow of my brake lights. But before I could get a clear look, I hit the gas and drove. I called the police as soon as I had service. They took the report and sent someone to check it out. Later, I heard that they found the truck exactly where I'd said it was, but no sign of the driver. They also found something else. Evidence that at least 3 other vehicles had been parked off to the side of the road near that same spot. No way to know when or why. The driver was never found. No clues, no explanation. Just gone. I think about that night a lot. I wonder what would have happened if I had gotten there a little earlier. If I had stopped for just a few minutes longer at that gas station. If I had stepped a little too far into the darkness. Since then, I've been more cautious. Hyper-aware of every stop I make. Every strange sound on the radio. Every abandoned truck sitting just a little too perfectly in the middle of the road. I still don't know what happened that night. But I know one thing. Whatever took that driver, whatever was waiting out there in the dark, I was just lucky enough not to be its next victim. Driving at night was something I had gotten used to over the years. The company I worked for set my deliveries, and I followed the schedule, no questions asked. It was a long-haul trip, the kind I preferred. Fewer stops, fewer distractions, just me and the road. The first half of the night was uneventful. A straight stretch of highway, empty except for the occasional trucker or late-night traveler. Around 2 a.m., I stopped at a small, isolated truck station. It was the last one I'd see for a while, since the next leg of my trip would take me through miles of dense forest with almost no places to pull over. After fueling up and grabbing a quick snack, I got back on the road. The trees on either side of me loomed tall, blocking out most of the sky. There were no street lights here, just the dim glow of my headlights cutting through the dark. About an hour into the drive, I spotted something up ahead. At first, I thought it was just a shadow shifting in the trees, but as I got closer, I realized it was a person. A lone figure standing at the edge of the road. It didn't make sense. There were no cars, no buildings, nothing but miles of trees. The person didn't wave or signal for help, didn't even acknowledge me as I passed. Just stood there, completely still. I tried to push it out of my mind, but barely a mile later, I saw another one. A woman this time. She was wearing ripped jeans and a faded red hoodie. As my truck passed her, she turned her head slightly and locked eyes with me. There was nothing in her expression. No emotion, no sign of distress. Just a blank stare. It sent a chill down my spine. I glanced at my mirror as I drove past, and I swear I saw her head turn, following my truck until she was swallowed by the dark. Something was wrong. I didn't know what, but my gut was screaming at me that none of this was normal. My hands tightened on the wheel, and I forced myself to keep driving, focusing on the road ahead. Then I saw it. Lying in the middle of the road was a body. I hit the brakes hard, my tires screeching against the asphalt as the truck came to a halt. The body was sprawled across the lane, motionless. My headlights illuminated the scene, and I scanned the area for any sign of a wreck, but there was nothing. No skid marks, no debris, no abandoned vehicle. My first instinct was to get out, to check if they were alive, but something held me back. My mind kept going back to the two figures I had just seen. Two strangers standing alone in the dark. And now this. A terrible thought formed in my head. What if this was a trap? I looked out at the forest on either side of the road, my headlights barely illuminating the first few rows of trees. Beyond that, nothing but shadows. My skin crawled at the idea that something, or someone, could be watching me from just beyond the light. A full minute passed. My engine idled, the only sound breaking the silence. The person on the road hadn't moved an inch. I gripped the wheel and made my decision. Carefully, I shifted into drive and slowly maneuvered around the body, keeping my eyes locked on it the entire time. As soon as my truck was clear, I accelerated. Something made me check my mirror one last time. My stomach dropped. The body was no longer on the ground. They were standing. Just standing there in the middle of the road, staring at my truck as I sped away. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear over the sound of the tires on the pavement. I didn't look back again. I kept my eyes straight ahead, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. For the rest of that drive, I was on high alert. Every shadow seemed darker, every shape along the roadside suspicious. But I didn't see any more figures. No more people standing at the edge of the forest, waiting. I don't know what their plan was. Maybe they were just trying to scare me. Maybe they wanted me to stop. But what would have happened if I had gotten out? If I had stepped just a little too far into the dark? Even now, I still don't know how many of them were actually out there that night. How many more were hiding just beyond the trees, waiting for me to make the wrong move. I don't take chances anymore. I don't stop for anything that doesn't seem right. And I never ever look back. I had been driving this route for years. It was one of my regular long-haul deliveries, a trip I made a couple of times a month. The road was familiar, stretching through miles of open farmland, flat and quiet. There was barely any traffic, and I liked it that way. Like always, I had planned my overnight stop at a truck stop I'd used for years. It was the perfect halfway point, big, mostly empty, and never too busy. It sat between two tiny towns, practically forgotten by most, but I liked the quiet. But as I pulled in after 1 a.m., something was wrong. The truck stop had been abandoned. The building was boarded up, the gas pumps were gone, and every light that had once lit up the lot had gone dark. The place was completely dead. I sat there for a minute, debating. Normally, I wouldn't have minded sleeping there, but something about that night made the thought impossible. Without even considering it further, I put the truck back in gear and got back on the highway. I regretted it almost immediately. My eyelids grew heavy, my mind foggy. I pushed through for another 15 minutes before I finally gave in and pulled onto the gravel shoulder of the road. My body ached with exhaustion, but I told myself it was safer to stop than to risk falling asleep at the wheel. I locked the doors, shut off the engine, and put up the window covers. Maybe other truckers did this all the time, but as I sat there in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by nothing but empty road and darkness, I felt uneasy. I couldn't sleep. I kept shifting in my seat, trying to get comfortable, but something just didn't feel right. After 20 minutes of lying there, waiting to drift off, I heard it. A small squeak. It sounded like the brakes of an old car, coming from somewhere behind my trailer. I sat up, straining to listen. Beneath the quiet hum of the night, there was the faintest sound of an engine idling. My first thought was a patrol car, maybe an officer stopping to check on me. I hoped for that, but something about it felt off. I slowly lowered one of the window shades and glanced at my side mirror. A car sat behind my truck, barely visible in the dim moonlight. It wasn't a police car. I barely had time to process it before I heard a voice call out, "Hey!" Just one word, but it sent my heart pounding. I didn't respond. My instincts screamed at me to leave. I reached for the ignition, but big rigs take a second to start up, and the moment my engine rumbled to life, I heard something else. Footsteps. Fast. Sprinting. I barely had time to react before someone grabbed the passenger door handle and yanked. Hard. The truck shook slightly as they tried to force it open. Through the window I saw him. A man, maybe in his 40s, with a thick, unkempt beard and a dark hoodie covering his head. His eyes locked onto mine, wild and determined. I slammed my foot on the gas. The truck lurched forward, and the man grabbed onto the door, trying to hold on. His face was inches from the glass, staring at me as he pounded his fist against the window. Then the window shattered. My breath caught in my throat as shards of glass flew into the cab. My heart raced. My eyes flicked to the side, expecting him to lunge inside. But he was gone. I checked my mirror just in time to see him hit the ground, rolling across the road before disappearing into the darkness. Either he lost his grip or he jumped off. I didn't slow down. I kept driving until my hands stopped shaking. By the time I called the cops, I was miles away. It took them over half an hour to reach the scene, and by then, all they found were shards of glass on the pavement. The man and his car were gone. I don't know what he wanted, but I know one thing. If he had broken that window just a second earlier, he might have had time to unlock the door. And if that had happened, I don't know if I'd still be here to tell this story. Sometimes your instincts know what you don't. If something feels wrong, don't wait. Just go.